Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name's Joe Buskins. This is our family's boat shop, and today's an exciting day. We are resuming work on our 21-foot Project Blazer center console. Now, if you go back a few months ago in the channel, we kind of introduced a couple episodes showing some basic demolition, but today we are doing kind of a piece of that project. We have the console here for our 21 Blazer, and we've got all kind of fixtures, holes where things used to be that we may no longer use. We've got an assortment of things, everything from Gelcoat work to Gelcoat stress cracks to delaminated core in here where the steering wheel goes. We've got some damaged material in there that we're going to be cutting out, and we've got a full kit of material kind of laid out for everybody. So I've got an assortment of kind of like from basic hand tools to heavy duty, get after it, professional grade stuff. Try to cover a lot of the stuff as we use it, but I think right now we're going to just start with some basics. A lot of times when you start a project like this, just getting the thing clean and de-rigged. Now, the fellow that had this project boat before me, he had already removed a number of the pieces of hardware. We went ahead and removed a little bit further and got it down on ground level, which is going to be a lot easier to work on a console if it's fairly easy to remove. Get it out of the boat where you can work on it. As a matter of fact, we've learned over the years, we've got a piece of like rubberized mat, but you could use a piece of foam rubber, and it's really nice to be able to rotate this console over on without risk of scratching it or damaging it on the concrete. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can roll this thing right over and you don't have to worry about scratching the face of our console, and we've got great access to everything. So a vacuum, which we got right here, and some fans are going to be part of the process. I'm going to get a little bit of air moving. I hope it doesn't compromise our audio quality too much, but having some airflow is a big part of doing this kind of work. All right. Obviously, we got a respirator on today and a Tyvek suit. That's going to be a big part of your PPE as well, because anytime you're taking stuff apart like this, important to have some proper gear. So we're starting with something fairly simple, and a lot of times that's just your decal removal. Flip this thing back around. Now, this boat had some emblems or some stickers on the side, and you can start with something as simple as a paint scraper. This is off-the-shelf Lowe's, Home Depot type stuff. And now this is an older console that's going to get extensive remodeling. So if this were a newer, nicer console, you'd want to use something with a little more finesse, like some kind of a chemical remover or a heat gun and a razor blade, very delicate. But for this kind of work, you can just get in there and get after it just like so. Or if you want to use a power tool, now we're going to be re-gel coating the whole exterior of this thing, so it's okay for me to get a little more aggressive than you might normally. But an 80 grit on our variable speed machine here, and you can actually sand those off. Just like so. Same deal for our old capacity plate. All right, good deal. Now you can see why you want to be wearing a mask when you're doing this and some eye protection. Now I've got some vacuum assist tools that we're going to be using as we move further into this thing when we get into sanding a lot of surfaces. But I also wanted to show you folks, if you'll notice, there were some screws or fasteners right here that have been cut off, and you can see there's a lot of rust around those. Now sometimes fasteners will get seized in the fiberglass and it's very hard to get them out. One trick that I've learned is you can take a little teeny small drill bit, and we've actually already done this with these, but we've drilled a series of holes around that fastener. You can flip this thing over. I'm gonna use some channel locks, and we can just grab that fastener there. And a lot of times by drilling a few holes around the perimeter, it'll allow you to extract that fastener without a lot of headache. You don't want to leave an old rusty fastener in there and just put some body filler over it. It may come back to haunt you. And you can see we got another one right there. We've already pre-drilled around it. Some good vice grips. And usually will come right out. And what we're gonna do is just more or less fill everything on this console, on this project boat, because there's no telling exactly what we're gonna go back with. And it's nice just to have a clean slate, if you will. That one was stainless, but still, apparently it was stuck nonetheless. There we go. And I've seen cases where just drilling a few holes around the perimeter is all you need. And just FYI, you would never want to use anything that was not stainless steel or a non-corrosive material to screw any fasteners. We see that pretty regularly, and that's kind of a no-no in the boat world, if you will. Now you can see that we've also, there's been a little bit of work done here. This doesn't appear to be factory glass, but what'll happen a lot of times, these consoles, the screws will work themselves loose, and people will try to figure out a way to get the console to stay put on deck. Now, I've done some videos in the past, a simple little tool here called a 5-in-1. If you don't own one of these, it's just a few bucks, but it's kind of like a painter's friend, a handyman's friend for sure. And sometimes it is hard to beat a little hand tool like this for basic demolition. Just like so. All right, straight into the trash bin. So we're gonna resume work back with our little 5-in-1, but this time, let's get our vacuum moving. We got some material here. Now it's very important, in my opinion, to clean as you go, and the vacuum may not seem like that glamorous of a power tool to have in the shop, but I'm gonna tell you, if you're doing any kind of fiberglass demolition work or rebuilding work, a quality, high capacity shop vac is gonna be essential. All right, folks, here you go. We've moved on to some new tools. I wanna show you a little trick. If you look down here inside the console, we had an area that was in the process of being repaired, but sometimes you may not know exactly what was used in that repair, and maybe sometimes you want to just start fresh with materials that you know for sure how they're going to react with your plan. We plan to gel coat this, so I want to go back with vinyl ester products, but I want to cut exactly where this little speaker hole was and just where the repair was done. So I used a small drill bit, and you can see I've already drilled a number of small holes right around the perimeter from the inside, so I can see exactly where we're going. And then I'm going to be using our fine, that's a multi-tool. Bosch makes them, Makita makes them, DeWalt makes them now. When I bought this one a long time ago, it's a F-E-I-N, a fine, and that is a carbide abrasive on there. It's like a grout tool that folks would use if they're doing like grout and tile work. I want to get our trusty shop vac going here. Now you can see it's just a matter of connecting the dots just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with connecting all those and cutting that out. All right, that little tool is surprisingly effective. Matter of fact, I want to give a shout out to David over there at Cruising the Cut. He's one of our guys, has a big channel and some really interesting content over in the UK. He is in the middle of a transom replacement, and he's been watching some of our videos, and he is tackling this as a first time transom replacement. And working with an oscillating tool is an awesome demolition tool. So if you don't have one, I'd recommend getting one. And you guys, I highly recommend checking out his channel as well. That's David over at Cruising the Cut. So David, hopefully some of what we're doing here is helpful for you and some of your viewers back there in the UK and worldwide. So what we're gonna do, folks, now you can see we were able to take that little plug with pretty nice precision. That's what I like about these little tools. You don't have a circular blade or something like a reciprocating saw, and it allows you to even come in here, like for example, maybe my cameraman can check in. We've got a plywood core in this helm area, and remember, you can see here where the bolt has sunk down. That's where our helm goes. And I'm gonna go ahead and take this piece of core material out, and we're gonna go back with Coosa and or Coosa board. If you're not familiar with it, you can actually go back further in the channel. And when we were building our 29 footer here in the shop, we used Coosa extensively or exclusively for all the stringers, floor, transom, and reinforced areas. And the goal here with our Project Blazer as the goal is with a lot of these projects to me, is make this boat better than it was from the factory, so that whoever gets this boat when we're all done can see that we went back with quality materials and it's current materials that are going to last a lifetime for most folks. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this. Same deal, we're just going to be really careful. I'm going to kind of just start a little bit and then show you as we move along. Now these tools, these are quite loud, so some ear protection, real good idea. All right, folks, and I'm telling you, like, that unusual little area, how tight it was, that's one thing that's so cool about these little tools, is you can swivel or pivot that cutting head, and I really don't know of another tool that you could do that much that quickly. So I'm sure you guys don't need to see the whole rest of that. We might jump back in right at the very end and when we're cleaning out that face. And as another note, it is at the end of the day for us down here, so we've got like, oh, an hour of daylight or so, and a lot of times I will wait till the end of the day to do any like really nasty demolition work. That way I'm not hot and sweaty, got fiberglass dust over me all day. So we'll spend the rest of the day working on maybe cleaner stuff and schedule it so at the end of the day you can do this stuff and then go home, get a shower, get cleaned up, and you're good to go for the next day. All right, so you folks can see how using that shop vac with this little tool, and again, if you don't own one of these, there's nothing else. I was able to turn this cutting head as we moved around, and you can just work your way under. And you can see that is already looking very loose. And you folks notice how close my table with all of my tools kind of set up for the job, very conveniently placed, so I'm not having to go get up and look for everything I'm going to need. Now again, our 5-in-1 tool, very handy for demolition. Sometimes you got something that's still stuck a little. And you can also use some wood chisels. You don't need anything real super high quality for chisels for demolition work. You certainly want to use your really good ones. But these things, again, inexpensive. These are Stanley, been around the shop for a long time. Great for this kind of work. Once we got the edge off of there, you can see that this plywood was not really that bonded in. There we go. Woohoo! Yep. There you go, folks. Now, obviously, today we're going to probably take a grinder or the chisel and work out. Some of the wood was still bonded. You can see here it was delaminated, or maybe it never was bonded to the console. But combination of power tools and hand tools, and that is not unlike removing a transom. You're basically cutting that skin, cutting that parameter, and you're going to use a combination of power tools and finesse tools to get that old material off of there. So I'm going to go to chipping probably mostly with just our little hand tools at this point. That's probably the best way to do it. Or a little high-speed grinder, which I think I'll demonstrate. Now you folks out there in the boat world or that are new to DIY, if you are doing any kind of heavy-duty fiberglass work, a little D-wall high-speed, like a 4.5 inch with a 36 grit disc is gonna be a fantastic material removal. Now we're just dealing with wood dust here, so it's not near as bad as fiberglass dust. But we will demonstrate a little bit how effective this can be. And David over there at Cruising the Cut, man, if you don't have one of these, a little high-speed grinder, and I just use a corded one, they're usually less than $100, and for the average DIYer, you're gonna get years and years of use out of these things. So here we go again with the vacuum. Always plenty of PPE. Now's a good time to remind you folks too, if you're enjoying the content, like, subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend, spread the word. The more viewers we have, the more watch time we have, the more of these videos we can do for you DIYers at home. So I want to show you folks another little trick at home household item here, some Comet or Ajax, kind of like a bathroom scrubber. And I've got a 3M, a Scotch-Brite pad there. We've already started using it. A lot of times what I'll do, a little sprinkle of that. I like to wet the surface. Now this is kind of jumping forward a little bit from when we were using the power tools. We wanted to get any splinters, any wood that was coming out, any screws that were protruding, because that can be dangerous. When you're trying to sand this by hand, those can become a hazard for you. But this is going to clean any unknowns off of that surface. This boat's going on 24, 25 years old. Obviously, it's been exposed to some oil and some grease, and we're going to be gel coating or painting this whole surface, and we want it as clean as possible. So usually I will mist it down just a little bit. We've already sprinkled, you can see we sprinkled some of that Ajax or Comet over the surface, and this is really good at prepping the surface prior to sanding, because if there are contaminants in the surface and you sand on it, there's a good chance you'll just embed those contaminants further into the material. So this is going to give us a fresh, clean surface to start with, and it's already going to lightly abrade the gel coat that's there, because these Scotch-Brite pads have some texture to them. Matter of fact, you can see, like right here, if you've got rust, a combination of the Comet and the Scotch-Brite pad will remove a good bit of that. Other possible stains as well, and you want to do it very methodically. I think surface preparation is one of those areas where people might fall short a little bit. Spend the extra time with getting this material clean. That's going to eliminate problems down the road. So what I'm going to do, very methodically clean every surface. The little corners are very important. Kind of just use your fingertip there, and you can kind of work that cleaning agent in. This is something everybody can do, everybody can afford. And if you want to see more about re-gel coating, I've got a couple videos here on the channel where we did like a little utility skiff, and we used some comment, a Scotch-Brite pad, and a little bit of light sanding on the interior to refinish it. We did that one back a few months ago. You folks may find interesting as we're moving forward. And there, of course, you can see there, we've got our project blazer in the background. But this console is a great place to start. A lot of you folks out there may be doing just a console, not a whole boat. All right, folks, we have finished the outside, cleaned it very thoroughly, and this is where like a Scotch-Brite pad with the Comet or the Ajax works. You can get all up in these little crevices and corners. Just be mindful, sometimes there will be splinters, sometimes there will be rough pieces of fiberglass, like maybe my cameraman can zoom in way in that corner. You can see there's some rough glass there. If you're not careful, that will give you a splinter. So that's why we did some prep on the inside beforehand. We're gonna go over this thing very thoroughly, especially here where it meets up to the floor. A lot of times there's dirt and grime. And I feel like prep work is one of those things that a lot of people wanna go straight to fiberglassing and filling holes, but I highly recommend really cleaning the surface as well beforehand, because if you have contaminants, something such as oil or grease, or even, you'll notice when I work, I'm wearing gloves a lot of times. The sweat and oils from your skin can even contaminate surfaces prior to painting. And there's another benefit. I won't lie, folks. It's a good workout. It's it'll keep you in shape. I guarantee you, you'll be burning some serious calories per hour doing this kind of stuff. So I'm gonna continue right on. And again, we're just doing it real methodically. I usually start down in the crevices and then kind of work my way up and out, and then kind of do the outer edges last. If you do the edges first, you're gonna be leaning over it and getting this stuff all over your nice clothes. So also timing and a strategy. I'd mentioned earlier in the video that a lot of times we like to do our grinding later in the day when we're about to go home, so we're not covered in fiberglass all day long. But like, for example, right now we're trying to do the scrubbing with water prior to us going to lunch, and so it can be drying while we're going to lunch, and then we can resume work when we come back. So scheduling, timing, having a plan, all that stuff is a big part of it. Okay, so we have finished all of our cleaning, and we've given this a couple hours to dry thoroughly, moved it back into another section of shop, and we're following up with more prep work. Now what we have here is what I call a chamfer bit. That would be kind of what you're looking for. Sometimes you can buy them in a kit, several different sizes. That one's just a good all-around bit. And what we're gonna be doing with that is we're gonna be cleaning out or chasing some of these fastener holes that were left in here from previous equipment. You can see up underneath here, there are just an assortment of holes everywhere. And those need to be filled. And to be filled, again, they need to be really clean. And we don't know that if someone may have used silicone or just some contaminants could be in there. So what I like to do is chase these holes with this little chamfer bit. Maybe my cameraman can zoom right in here. I've already done several of these, but like these here, for example, place that bit in, and you can see that it does a great job of cleaning out some of that material. Just like so. Now the bigger ones would work well for some of these bigger holes, and we got an assortment of other tools that you may use in an application like this. Like you've got a little pneumatic angle grinder that
for getting up in little tight corners and tight spots, like that would be the tool that we would use for prepping that, as well as a die grinder with a carbide burr. That can be really good for cleaning up like interior edges and parts. And then also we like these little carbide burrs for like getting down in these little corners. One of the only tools where you can sand and prep if you're going to be. So I'm going to demonstrate with that one first a little bit for you folks. All right, cameraman, come on down right in here. Just how effective that little tool can be for tight spots. Now this one is great, like say for example, right in here, if we want to remove a little more material around this. Same goes for this one. One more big dog power tool. That is a fest tool, and you got a vacuum attachment to that one. So what is so nice about this machine is it's got a dust extractor through the disc there, and you don't have to individually turn the vacuum on and the tool itself. When you engage it, it turns the vacuum on. Alright. Same deal, we can do more sanding there. The vacuum will run for a few more moments and then it cuts out. So as a general rule of thumb, when you're going to do a patch or repair, say you've got a hole through a fiberglass panel, about 10 to 15 to 1 ratio. Like if you had 1 inch thick fiberglass, you would want to go 10 to 15 inches out on the bevel, and just scale that for thinner stuff and thicker stuff. As a general rule of thumb, now of course you could go more, but around 12 to 1 on your scarf ratio is going to be what you're going to want. And we're going to do a double-sided repair on a lot of these, so we're going to be adding some fiberglass and closing up a lot of these holes, glass on the back side and glass on the outside as well, so that we've got a really, really good repair, not a patch, which to me there's a difference. We want to try to do this, have this thing as good or better than it was from the factory. So I've got a good bit of sanding to do. Now y'all will notice today with the amount of dust we're making, I've got my modified Tyvek. I cut the legs off of it because I don't really need protection on my legs this kind of work, and it's surprising how much cooler it is with that. Okay, so you guys come on down here and check out what we've done so far. I want you to get an idea of what a properly prepped surface in general should look like. We've given you, to give you folks an overview on all of the smaller holes. We've used the chamfer bit there to kind of clean them out initially, and then we've come back with a little small angle grinder. These would be the discs that go on there. That's a relatively inexpensive power tool, but you do have to have a compressor, but they just screw into that little disc just like so. Inexpensive little angle grinder. The DeWalt carbide tool is really good for cleaning out the perimeters of some of these bigger holes. And then even a wire brush can work really good. I can't remember if I demonstrated that or not, but sometimes in the corners you can use a wire brush. So an assortment of tools. Now a lot of this could be done with just sandpaper by hand, but it would be a lot of work. Now we are moving back to the big dog, the big fest tool there, the vac assist. And now that we've pretty much got the core material dug out of there, that surfaced, everything kind of beveled back. You can see we did a nice gradual bevel everywhere where we're going to re-fiberglass that and close that hole. I want to go over everything and put a little just scuff on all these surfaces and knock down any little burrs and whatnot. So we're using a fairly aggressive, that's a 24 grit, but anything from like a 50 to a 24 could work. All right, zoom right on in. All right, I think you folks probably get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and knock all this surface down and kind of, I will call that probably 85% or so of the surface prep here. But it is getting late. It's after 6 o'clock on a Saturday, and I need to go home and get this uploaded and try to get it on YouTube for you folks. But if everybody out there is enjoying the content that we're creating, if you're enjoying the videos, if you want to see us make more of these kind of videos, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, comment, share. I love to hear some positive feedback from you folks, or maybe suggestions for video content. And this 21-foot blazer project, again, if you're just tuning in, I've got a couple other intro videos back from a couple months ago showcasing what we're going to do. Floor, stringer, transom, possibly gel coat on the exterior, motor installation, electronics. It's going to be a major project. So y'all stay tuned. It's going to be amazing. I'd like to thank you so much. Captain Joe here, Island Marine Charters, Fish Bump TV, my son Logan as my amazing cameraman, and we'll catch you folks next time out.